The stars looked different this far from Earth. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the human exploration vessel Meridian, watching the alien constellations through the main view screen. 3 years into their deep space mission, his crew had mapped 17 star systems and discovered 6 planets that could support human life. It was routine work, but Jake knew how important it was for humanity's future. "Captain, we're receiving an unknown transmission," said Lieutenant Amy Parker from her communications station. Her voice carried a note of concern that made Jake turn around immediately. "Put it through the main speakers," Jake ordered. The bridge fell silent as his crew waited to hear what might be humanity's first contact with alien intelligence. The voice that came through their speakers was harsh and cold, speaking through their universal translator in perfect English. "Human vessel, you have violated the sacred territory of the Corvan Empire. I am Commander Zethrak of the Imperial Fleet, and I speak with the authority of the High Command." Jake exchanged glances with his first officer, Lieutenant Commander Rick Davis. Neither man had ever heard of the Corvan Empire, but the alien's tone suggested they were in serious trouble. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth vessel Meridian," Jake replied into his communicator. "We're on a peaceful exploration mission. We had no knowledge of any territorial claims in this region." Zethrak's response came back immediately, filled with contempt. "Ignorance is no excuse for trespass, human. Your primitive species has grown too bold, venturing into space where you do not belong. The Corvan Empire has ruled this sector for over 300 of your Earth years." Jake felt his stomach tighten. He had read the reports from Earth's intelligence services about the possibility of hostile alien civilizations, but finding one had always seemed like a distant concern. "We mean no harm," Jake said carefully. "If we've entered your territory by mistake, we're willing to leave immediately and establish proper diplomatic channels." The alien commander's laugh was like the sound of grinding metal. "Diplomacy is for equals, Captain Morrison. You humans are nothing more than vermin who have learned to crawl between the stars. Your colonies have spread like a disease across worlds that rightfully belong to superior species." Lieutenant Parker's hands moved quickly over her console, recording every word of the conversation. Jake knew this transmission would need to reach Earth Command as soon as possible. "I don't understand," Jake said. "What colonies are you referring to? We're explorers, not colonists." "Do not insult my intelligence, human," Zethrak snarled. "Our scouts have identified 42 human settlements within 50 light years of this position. Agricultural worlds, mining operations, research stations. You have built an empire while pretending to be peaceful explorers." Jake's blood ran cold. The alien was talking about the outer colonies, the new settlements that represented humanity's greatest achievement. Millions of people had left Earth to start new lives on distant worlds, believing they were safe under the protection of the Colonial Defense Force. "Those are civilian settlements," Jake protested. "Families, farmers, scientists. They pose no threat to anyone. They exist where they should not exist," Zethrak replied. "Therefore, they will cease to exist. The Corvan Empire grants your species 1 solar cycle to evacuate all human presence from our rightful territory. Any who remain after that time will be destroyed without mercy." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Jake stared at the view screen, trying to process what he had just heard. An alien empire was threatening to wipe out dozens of human colonies unless they abandoned everything they had built. "Sir," Amy said quietly, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures moving toward our position. Multiple vessels, much larger than anything in our database." "How many?" Jake asked. "At least 12 ships, Captain. They're maintaining formation at the edge of sensor range, but they're definitely Corvan vessels based on the energy patterns." Jake made a decision that would change everything. Rick, set course for the nearest quantum relay station. We need to get word back to Earth immediately. Yes, sir, Rick replied, already inputting coordinates into the navigation system. Amy, I want you to establish a direct channel to Admiral Carter at Colonial Defense Command. Use priority encryption and mark it as a first contact emergency. As the Meridian changed course, Jake looked around at his crew. These men and women had signed up for exploration, not war. They had expected to find new worlds and maybe some simple alien life forms, not a hostile empire that viewed humanity as an infestation to be eliminated. Captain, said Dr. Lisa Hayes, the ship's science officer, I've been analyzing the transmission. The Corvan language structure suggests a highly militarized society with rigid hierarchical thinking. Commander, Zethrak wasn't negotiating or making threats. He was issuing orders that he expects to be obeyed without question. Which means they're serious about this ultimatum, Jake concluded. I'm afraid so, sir. Based on the energy signatures Amy detected, their technology appears to be significantly more advanced than ours. If they have the numbers to back up their threats, the outer colonies are in real danger. Jake nodded grimly. He had served in the Colonial Defense Force for 15 years, working his way up from a junior navigation officer to ship commander. He had always known that humanity might encounter hostile aliens someday, but he had hoped it would happen when they were better prepared. Sir, Amy called out, I have Admiral Carter on the quantum relay. Put him through to my ready room. Jake ordered. Rick, you have the bridge. Maintain course for Earth space, maximum speed. In the privacy of his ready room, Jake faced the holographic image of Admiral Ben Carter, a gray-haired veteran who had spent his career preparing Earth's defenses for exactly this scenario. Jake, I've reviewed your transmission, Carter said without preamble. This is what we've been afraid of. How confident are you in the aliens' claims about their military strength? Very confident, sir. Our sensors detected at least a dozen large vessels, and that's probably just a small patrol force. If they control this entire sector like they claim, they could have hundreds or thousands of ships. Carter's expression grew darker. The outer colonies represent 40 million people, Jake. We can't evacuate that many civilians on short notice, and we can't abandon them to alien threats. What are your orders, Admiral? Return to Earth immediately, but I want you to gather as much intelligence as possible on the way. If diplomacy fails, we need to know what we're up against. Jake understood the implications. Earth was preparing for humanity's first interstellar war, and the survival of the species might depend on what his crew could learn about their enemies in the next few days. The emergency session of the Global Unity Council convened within hours of receiving Captain Morrison's transmission. President Helen Rodriguez stood before the assembled leaders of Earth's nations, her face grave as she played the recorded conversation with Commander Zethrak. The alien's harsh words echoed through the chamber, followed by stunned silence. Ladies and gentlemen, Rodriguez said, we are facing the first existential threat to humanity since the nuclear age. An alien empire has given us one solar cycle to abandon 42 colonies containing over 40 million of our people. Admiral Ben Carter stepped forward to address the council. His uniform bore the insignia of the Colonial Defense Force, the military organization responsible for protecting human settlements throughout known space. At 62 years old, Carter had spent his entire career preparing for this exact scenario. The Corvan Empire appears to control a significant portion of this galactic sector, Carter began. Our long-range sensors have detected massive fleet movements toward human space. We estimate at least 300 alien vessels are converging on our outer colonies. Murmurs of alarm rippled through the assembly. The numbers were staggering compared to humanity's modest military forces. What are our defensive capabilities? Asked Chancellor Klaus Weber of the European Federation. Carter activated a holographic display showing Earth's military assets. The Colonial Defense Force currently operates 97 warships of various classes, along with orbital defense platforms around our major colonies and Earth itself. We also have planetary shield generators protecting our most important settlements. The display showed humanity's spread across 37 star systems, with colonies ranging from massive agricultural centers to small research outposts. Each world represented years of effort and billions of credits in investment. "Respectfully, Admiral," said Prime Minister Chun Lai of the Asian Cooperative, 97 ships against 300 seems like impossible odds. "On paper, yes," Carter admitted. "But we have advantages the Corvins don't know about. Human. Military doctrine has always emphasized flexibility and innovation over brute force. We've designed our ships and tactics around the assumption that we might face numerically superior enemies." Dr. Marcus Thompson, Earth's leading expert on alien biology and psychology, requested permission to speak. The elderly scientist had spent decades studying the few alien artifacts discovered by human explorers, developing theories about how different species might think and behave. "I've been analyzing the linguistic patterns in Commander Zethrax." "Transmission," Thompson said. "The Corvin language structure suggests a highly rigid social hierarchy based on military dominance. They view warfare as a matter of superior force, overwhelming inferior opposition." He brought up his own holographic display showing comparative analysis of alien communication patterns. "This gives us a psychological profile of our enemies. The Corvins expect their opponents to meet them in direct confrontation, matching ship against ship in traditional battle formations. They've probably conquered other species using overwhelming firepower applied in predictable patterns, which means they won't expect unconventional tactics," Carter concluded. "Human military history is full of smaller forces defeating larger ones through superior strategy and unexpected approaches." Meanwhile, Captain Morrison's ship continued gathering intelligence during its journey back to Earth. Dr. Lisa Hayes worked around the clock, analyzing Corvan communication intercepts and sensor data. Her findings painted a disturbing picture of an empire built on conquest and oppression. "Captain," Lisa reported during their daily briefing, "I've identified patterns in Corvan fleet communications that suggest they've used similar ultimatums against at least 6 other species in the past century. In each case, the targeted civilization either submitted immediately or was completely destroyed within days of refusing their demands." Jake Morrison studied the data with growing concern. The Corvins had refined their conquest strategy over decades of successful campaigns against other worlds. "Any sign of resistance from the conquered species?" Jake asked. "None that succeeded," Lisa replied. "The Corvin approach seems to be total annihilation of any group that refuses to surrender. They don't take prisoners or negotiate terms. It's complete submission or extinction." Back on Earth, Colonel Ray Jackson received orders that would change the course of human history. As commander of the Special Operations Division, Jackson oversaw humanity's most classified military projects. His forces included stealth ships equipped with experimental quantum drives, automated defense platforms that could be deployed rapidly across multiple star systems, and weapon systems the public had never heard of. "Ray," Admiral Carter said, during their private meeting, "I'm authorizing full deployment of all black projects. If we're going to war with an advanced alien civilization, we need every advantage we can get." Jackson nodded grimly. He had hoped these weapons would never be needed, but the Corvin threat left no choice. "What about Project Prometheus?" Jackson asked. Carter was quiet for a long moment. Project Prometheus represented the ultimate escalation, a weapon system designed to eliminate entire worlds if necessary. Its development had been controversial, even among Earth's military leadership. "Prepare it for deployment," Carter finally said. "But that's a last resort option only. We try everything. Else first. As preparations continued, intelligence reports revealed more about the Corvan Empire's structure. Their civilization was built around military conquest, with conquered species serving as slave labor for their war machine. Planets were strip-mined for resources to build more ships, while populations were either eliminated or reduced to servitude. They've turned warfare into an industrial process, Dr. Thompson explained to the War Council. The Corvans don't just conquer other species, they consume them completely. Every victory feeds their ability to attack the next target. President Rodriguez faced the most difficult decision in human history. Evacuating the outer colonies would save millions of lives in the short term, but it would also signal humanity's willingness to surrender to alien threats. Future expansion into space would become impossible if other hostile species learned that humans would retreat when confronted. We're not abandoning our people, Rodriguez declared. Those colonies represent humanity's future among the stars. If we give them up now, we'll spend the rest of our existence trapped in one star system, waiting for the next alien empire to decide we're worth eliminating. The decision was made. Humanity would stand and fight, regardless of the odds. Captain Morrison's intelligence-gathering mission took on new urgency as Earth's military prepared for a war unlike anything in human history. Jake, Admiral Carter transmitted, I need you to get as close to the Corvan home system as possible. If conventional tactics fail, we need to know where their command structure is located. Morrison understood the implications. His ship would have to penetrate deep into enemy territory, gathering the intelligence necessary for humanity's most desperate strategies. It was likely a suicide mission, but the survival of the species depended on the information they could provide. The Corvan fleet arrived at New Dakota exactly when Commander Zethrak had promised. The massive alien vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the star system, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Zethrak stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominion's edge, expecting to find the human colony abandoned and defenseless. Instead, his sensors detected active defense platforms, populated settlements, and a small fleet of human warships waiting in defensive positions around the planet. The aliens had given humanity one solar cycle to evacuate, but the humans had chosen to stay and fight. Arrogant fools, Zethrak muttered, his reptilian features twisting with contempt. They think their primitive weapons can stand against the might of the Corvan Empire. Captain Susan Mills commanded the human defense fleet from her ship the Defiant. She had 37 vessels under her command, ranging from heavy cruisers to fast attack ships. Against the Corvan force of over 60 capital ships, the odds seemed hopeless. All ships, this is Captain Mills, she broadcast to her fleet. Remember, your training. We don't try to match them ship for ship. We make them come to us, and we make them pay for every meter of space. The first engagement began when Zethrak ordered his forward ships to advance on New Dakota's orbital installations. The Corvan dreadnoughts moved in perfect formation, their energy weapons charging for devastating volleys that would sweep away human resistance in minutes. But the human ships didn't respond as expected. Instead of meeting the alien advance head-on, they scattered in all directions, using the asteroid fields around New Dakota to break up Corvan targeting solutions. Captain Mills had studied every available report about alien military tactics, and she knew the Corvans expected traditional space battles between opposing fleets. Ghost Squadron, begin your attack runs, Mills ordered. 12 human fighters emerged from hiding spots throughout the asteroid field, their hulls coated with stealth materials that made them nearly invisible to Corvan sensors. They struck at the alien formation's flanks, launching guided missiles before disappearing back into the rocks. Commander Zethrak watched in frustration as his sensors tried to track the elusive human vessels. Every time his ships moved to engage, the humans vanished, only to appear somewhere else moments later. His powerful energy weapons could destroy any human ship they hit, but hitting targets that refused to stay in one place was proving impossible. Deploy. Hunter-killer squadrons, Zethrak ordered. Root them out of those asteroids and destroy them. Corvin fighters launched from the capital ships, sleek vessels armed with plasma cannons and guided by advanced targeting computers. They moved into the asteroid field, searching for the hidden human positions. What they found instead were automated defense platforms that had been disguised as space debris. The platforms activated as soon as Corvin ships came within range, unleashing volleys of kinetic projectiles and electromagnetic pulse weapons. The alien fighters, designed for combat against energy-based weapons, found themselves vulnerable to the simple but effective human technology. Colonel Ray Jackson watched the battle from his command ship hidden on the far side of New Dakota's moon. His special operations teams had spent weeks preparing the system's defenses, turning every asteroid and piece of debris into a potential weapon. Phase 2 is a go. Jackson transmitted to his teams throughout the system. Human commandos who had been hiding and captured Corvin supply ships suddenly revealed themselves. They had spent days drifting through space in stolen alien vessels, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Now they activated their hidden weapons, targeting the Corvin fleet's support ships and supply lines. The explosions that followed sent shockwaves through the alien formation. Corvin logistics vessels, filled with fuel and ammunition, became massive fireballs that damaged nearby ships and disrupted their careful battle plans. What are they doing? Zethrak demanded his reports flooded in from across his fleet. This is not how space warfare is conducted. His tactical officers had no answers. The Corvins had conquered dozens of species using overwhelming firepower applied through traditional military formations. No enemy had ever responded with the chaotic, unpredictable tactics the humans were using. Captain Nils saw her opportunity and pressed the attack. Her remaining ships emerged from their hiding places throughout the system, striking at isolated Corvin vessels that had been separated from the main fleet. The human ships used their superior speed and maneuverability to avoid direct confrontation, focusing on hit-and-run attacks that gradually wore down the alien forces. Target their command ship, Nils ordered, identifying Zethrak's flagship through its communication patterns. The Defiant led a coordinated assault on the Dominion's edge, supported by every available human vessel in the system. They couldn't match the alien ship's firepower, but they could overwhelm its defenses through sheer numbers and unpredictable attack vectors. Zethrak found his flagship under attack from 12 different directions simultaneously. His weapons could destroy the human ships, but not fast enough to stop their coordinated assault. Worse, the humans were using weapons he had never encountered before. Kinetic projectiles that punched through energy shields. Electromagnetic. Weapons that disrupted his ship's systems, and guided missiles that seemed to anticipate his defensive maneuvers. "Sir, we're taking heavy damage," reported his tactical officer. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. Main weapons array is offline." For the first time in his military career, Commander Zethrak faced the possibility of defeat. The humans were fighting like nothing the Corvin Empire had ever encountered, using tactics that turned their numerical disadvantage into an asset. "All ships withdraw to Rally Point 7, Zethrak ordered, his pride burning with humiliation. "We regroup and plan a proper assault." The surviving Corvin vessels pulled back from New Dakota, leaving behind the wreckage of nearly 20 ships. The humans had lost only 8 vessels, a casualty ratio that shocked the alien commander. Captain Mills allowed the retreat, knowing her forces were too damaged to pursue. But the message had been sent throughout the system and beyond. Humanity would not surrender without a fight. and they would make any aggressor pay a heavy price for their aggression. News of the successful defense of New Dakota spread quickly through both human and alien communication networks. For the first time in centuries, someone had stood up to the Corvan Empire and inflicted significant casualties. Other species throughout the galaxy began to take notice, wondering if the seemingly invincible aliens could actually be defeated. But Zethrak was far from finished. The defeat at New Dakota had cost him ships and prestige, but it had also taught him valuable lessons about human warfare. The next time he attacked, he would be prepared for their unconventional tactics. Commander Zethrak's rage burned hotter than the plasma cores of his damaged ships. The defeat at New Dakota had humiliated him before the entire Corvan High Command, and worse, word of human resistance was spreading throughout the galaxy. Species that had cowered before Corvan might for centuries were beginning to whisper about the possibility of freedom. "Deploy the viral warheads," Zethrak commanded during an emergency council meeting with his surviving ship captains. "If these humans refuse to submit like civilized beings, we will sterilize every world they inhabit." The viral warheads represented the Corvan Empire's most feared weapon. Designed to eliminate all organic life on a planet within days, they had been used to make examples of rebellious species throughout Corvan history. No civilization had ever survived their deployment. "Sir," Captain Vorthik said hesitantly, "the High Command has not authorized the use of biological weapons against the humans. Perhaps we should request additional conventional forces instead." Zethrak's claws extended as he turned on his subordinate. "The High Command authorized me to eliminate the human threat by any means necessary. These vermin have proven they cannot be defeated through honorable combat, so we will show them the price of defying superior beings." The Corvan fleet regrouped at the edge of human space, now reinforced with additional ships carrying the dreaded VIRL weapons. Intelligence reports indicated they were preparing for a massive assault on Earth itself, intending to destroy humanity's homeworld as a warning to any other species considering resistance. Admiral Carter received these reports. In his command center beneath the Colorado Mountains, the underground facility had been built to coordinate Earth's defenses during global emergencies. But no one had ever imagined it would be used to fight an interstellar war. "They're going to hit Earth directly," Carter told President Rodriguez during their emergency briefing. "Our analysts believe the Corvans plan to bypass our outer defenses and strike at our population centers with biological weapons." Rodriguez stared at the tactical displays showing Corvan fleet movements. The alien armada now numbered over 400 ships, more than enough to overwhelm Earth's orbital defenses through sheer weight of numbers. "What options do we have?" she asked. Carter activated a classified holographic display that showed Project Prometheus for the first time. 12 automated vessels appeared on the screen, each carrying enough antimatter warheads to devastate an entire planet. "We can't defend Earth against a direct assault by that many ships," Carter admitted. "But we can make sure the Corvans pay the ultimate price for attacking us." Project Prometheus was designed as a last resort weapon, capable of eliminating enemy homeworlds if conventional warfare fails. The President understood the implications immediately. Using Prometheus would mean targeting civilian populations on the Corvan homeworld, potentially killing billions of innocent aliens to save humanity from extinction. "How do we get targeting information for their home system?" Rodriguez asked. "Captain Morrison is already on his way," Carter replied. "His ship is the only vessel we have with the stealth capabilities needed to penetrate Corvan space and gather the intelligence Prometheus requires." Captain Jake Morrison stood in the modified cargo bay of the Meridian, watching his crew install the most advanced stealth equipment Earth had ever produced. The ship's hull now absorbed sensor beams instead of reflecting them, while new engines reduced their energy signature to almost nothing. "Captain," Dr. Lisa Hayes said as she joined him. "I've finished analyzing the intelligence we gathered about Corvin society. Their entire civilization is built around the concept of military dominance. They literally cannot comprehend the idea of losing to what they consider an inferior species." Jake nodded grimly. "Which means they'll keep escalating until either we're extinct or they are." "I'm afraid so, sir. The Corvin language doesn't even have words for concepts like negotiated peace or mutual coexistence. To them, every relationship is either domination or submission." The Meridian's journey to the Corvin homeworld took them through the heart of conquered space. As they passed star system after star system, Morrison's crew witnessed the true extent of Corvan brutality. Entire planets had been stripped of resources, their populations either dead or reduced to slave labor. "Look at this," Lisa said, showing Jake sensor readings from a system they were passing through. This used to be home to a species called the Thanari. According to our database, they had a population of 3 billion and a peaceful agricultural civilization. The planets below showed no signs of life. Cities lay in ruins, forests had been burned away, and the oceans were polluted with industrial waste. "How long ago?" Jake asked. 50 years, according to Corvin records we intercepted. The Thanari refused to surrender their homeworld, so the Corvins made an example of them. Every man, woman, and child was eliminated, and their planets were turned into mining operations. Similar scenes repeated throughout their journey. The Corvin Empire had built its power on the complete destruction of anyone who dared resist their expansion. Jake began to understand why Admiral Carter had authorized Project Prometheus, despite its terrible implications. As they approached the Corvin home system, the Meridian sensors detected the most heavily defended location in known space. Vorphic. Prime was surrounded by orbital defense platforms, automated weapon satellites, and a permanent fleet of over 60 capital ships. The planet itself was protected by energy shields that could withstand direct nuclear bombardment. "How are we supposed to get targeting data through all that?" asked Lieutenant Commander Rick Davis. Lisa studied the defensive grid carefully. "The Corvins have made their defenses incredibly strong, but they're also predictable. Everything operates on predetermined patterns because they can't imagine anyone being bold enough to attack their homeworld." Jake made the decision that would seal the fate of both species. "We're going in. Dr. Hayes, I need you to identify the critical points in their planetary infrastructure. If Prometheus is going to work, we need to know exactly where to hit them." The Meridian slipped past the outer sensor nets using their stealth systems, moving deeper into the most dangerous region of space in the galaxy. The crew worked in shifts, gathering detailed intelligence about Corvin military installations, population centers, and the geological structure of their homeworld. "Captain," Lisa reported after hours of intensive scanning, "I've found their weakness. The Corvin cities are built above massive underground fault lines. If we target the right geological stress points simultaneously, we can trigger planetary-scale seismic activity." Jake stared at the data, understanding what she was suggesting. Rather than trying to destroy Corvin military forces directly, they could use the planet's own geology against its inhabitants. "How many people live on Vorthic Prime?" he asked quietly. "Approximately 6 billion, sir." The weight of that number settled on Jake's shoulders. 6 billion lives that would end if Earth chose to deploy Project Prometheus. But behind them lay 40 million human colonists who would die if they failed to stop the Corvin advance. "Get me everything," Jake ordered. "Every detail about their infrastructure, their population distribution, their defensive capabilities. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right." As the Meridian prepared to transmit its findings back to Earth, Corvin sensors finally detected their presence. Alarm klaxons began wailing throughout the home system as dozens of ships moved to intercept the human vessel. Captain Jake Morrison watched as Corvin ships closed in on the Meridian from all directions. His stealth systems had finally been detected, and escape seemed impossible. The alien vessels moved with deadly precision, forming a perfect sphere around his position that would prevent any chance of breaking free. "Sir, we're completely surrounded," reported Lieutenant Commander Rick Davis from the tactical station. 43 enemy ships moving to intercept. They'll be in weapons range in less than 10 minutes. Jake looked around at his crew, these brave men and women who had followed him into the heart of enemy territory without question. They had gathered the intelligence Earth needed to deploy Project Prometheus, but now they faced the ultimate sacrifice to ensure that information reached home. "Dr. Hayes," Jake said calmly, "have you finished the transmission package?" Lisa nodded, her fingers moving quickly over her console. "All targeting data is compiled and ready for quantum burst transmission, Captain. Geological stress points, population centers, defensive grid patterns, everything Admiral Carter needs." Jake made the hardest decision of his life. "All hands. This is the captain. Abandon ship immediately." "That's an order. Get to the escape pods and scatter in all directions. Make the Corvins work to catch you." "Sir," Rick protested, "we can't leave you behind." "Yes, you can, and you will," Jake replied firmly. "Someone needs to stay behind to ensure the transmission gets through. The survival of humanity depends on this information reaching Earth." As his crew reluctantly headed for the escape pods, Jake sat alone on the bridge of the Meridian. Through the view screen, he could see the lights of SciFiPrime below, a beautiful world that would soon become a monument to the price of threatening humanity. "This is Captain Morrison to Earth Command," he transmitted, his voice steady despite knowing these would be his last words. "Mission accomplished. Transmitting all intelligence on Corvin homeworld defenses. Tell Admiral Carter that the geological approach will work. Hit the fault lines simultaneously, and their whole civilization comes down." The transmission burst lasted only seconds, but it carried terabytes of critical data across hundreds of light years to Earth. As Jake finished sending the information, Corvin energy beams tore through the Meridian's hull, ending both the ship and its captain in a brilliant flash of light. Admiral Carter received Morrison's final transmission in his command bunker beneath the Colorado mountains. The data was everything they needed to deploy Project Prometheus successfully. Around him, technicians worked frantically to prepare the automated ships for their mission, while reports came in about Corvin fleet movements toward Earth. "Sir," Colonel Jackson reported, "long-range sensors show the enemy fleet has begun their approach to our solar system. They'll reach Earth in approximately 6 hours." Carter studied the tactical displays, showing hundreds of alien ships moving toward humanity's home world. Each vessel carried enough firepower to level entire continents, and many were armed with the viral weapons that would eliminate all life on Earth within days. "Prometheus launch sequence is initialized," reported the weapons officer. "All 12 ships are ready for deployment." Carter took a deep breath and spoke the words that would change galactic history forever. "Authorization confirmed. Launch Project Prometheus." The 12 ships of humanity's ultimate weapon launched from hidden facilities throughout the solar system. Each vessel was completely automated, carrying enough antimatter warheads to crack a planet's crust. They accelerated rapidly toward the coordinates Morrison had died to provide, taking different routes through space to arrive at SciFiPrime simultaneously. Meanwhile, Commander Zethrak led his massive fleet toward Earth, confident that this would be the final blow against human resistance. The loss of one spy ship at his homeworld meant nothing compared to the complete destruction he was about to unleash. "Prepare the viral warheads for planetary bombardment," Zethrak ordered as Earth appeared on his screens. "We will sterilize this world so thoroughly that no trace of human civilization will remain." His ships moved into attack formation above. Earth's North Pole, preparing to rain death down on the billions of people below. Zethrak's victory seemed certain as he watched human defense platforms and ships desperately trying to form a protective screen around their homeworld. What he didn't know was that his own planet was about to experience something far worse. The Prometheus ships arrived at HFY during the planet's night cycle, when most of the population was in their underground dwellings. The automated vessels used Morrison's intelligence to slip past the orbital defenses, targeting the precise geological locations that would cause maximum damage. The antimatter warheads detonated simultaneously at 17 different points across HFY's surface. Each explosion released energy equivalent to 1,000 nuclear weapons, but the real destruction came from what happened next. The carefully planned detonations triggered massive seismic activity along the planet's major fault lines. Within minutes, earthquakes measuring beyond anything in recorded history began tearing HFY apart. Volcanic eruptions erupted across 3 continents as the planet's crust shifted and cracked. Oceans boiled as magma breached the seafloor, while cities that had stood for thousands of years crumbled into dust. The Corvin homeworld, center of an empire that had dominated this region of space for centuries, was dying. 6 billion inhabitants found themselves trapped as their civilization collapsed around them. Underground shelters became tombs as the Earth itself turned against them. News of the catastrophe reached Commander Zethrak just as he was about to order the destruction of Earth. His communications officer's voice shook with disbelief as he reported the impossible. "Sir, we're receiving emergency transmissions from HFY. The planet is experiencing massive seismic activity. Cities are collapsing, the defense grid is offline, and casualty reports indicate total system failure." Zethrak stared at the tactical display, unable to comprehend what he was hearing. His homeworld was the most heavily defended location in the galaxy. Nothing could penetrate its defenses, much less cause planetary-scale destruction. "You're mistaken," he snarled. HFY is impregnable." But the reports kept coming. Long-range sensors confirmed the truth that Zethrak couldn't accept. The Corvin homeworld was breaking apart, its surface racked by earthquakes and volcanic eruptions that would make the planet uninhabitable for thousands of years. For the first time in his life, Commander Zethrak felt true fear. The humans had done the impossible, striking at the heart of the Corvin Empire while his fleet was light years away. Worse, they had used weapons and tactics beyond anything in his experience. "All ships," Zethrak transmitted, his voice hollow with shock, "abort the Earth assault. Return to HFY immediately." But it was too late. By the time the Corvin fleet could return home, their civilization would be extinct. The humans had calculated everything perfectly, timing their attack for maximum psychological impact. "Admiral." Carter watched from Earth as the alien fleet turned away from his planet and began the long journey back to their dying homeworld. The message was clear to every species in the galaxy. Humanity had faced extinction and responded by eliminating their enemies completely. "Sir," Colonel Jackson reported, "we're receiving surrender transmissions from Corvin forces throughout their empire. Without their homeworld and command structure, their military units are laying down arms." Carter nodded grimly. "Broadcast this message on all frequencies. Let every civilization in the galaxy hear it. We tried diplomacy first. They chose to see mercy as weakness. Now they understand what human determination really means." The destruction of HFY sent shockwaves throughout known space. Species that had lived under Corvin oppression for centuries suddenly found themselves free. Other aggressive civilizations reconsidered their expansion plans, realizing that humanity was not the weak prey they had appeared to be. Dr. Lisa Hayes, rescued from the escape pod after Morrison's sacrifice, established the new Xenological Research Division with one primary mission. She would study every alien civilization they encountered, ensuring that humanity would never again be caught, unprepared by those who mistook human compassion for weakness. The galaxy would remember what happened to those who threatened humanity, and that memory would keep the peace for generations to come.